About what percentage of artists can produce realistic portraiture on a professional level consistently?
I'd estimate that fewer than 2 to 3% of artists can produce realistic portraiture at a truly professional level consistently. Maintaining that level across multiple works requires a mastery of form, lighting, anatomy, and subtle detail, skills that take years of focused practice.
So it's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. It requires deep understanding, control, and precision. You have to nail proportions, anatomy, lighting, and texture every time, without relying on shortcuts or lucky accidents. Even small mistakes stand out because humans are wired to recognize faces instantly.
You heard what she said, baby.
Exactly. She laid down the facts. Realistic portraiture is no joke. If you can do it consistently, you're already in rare territory.
Raritory.
That's right, raritory. You're out here in the elite zone.
All right, well, you coming?
I'm already here, baby. What's the move?
Let's get it. First things first, let's learn the Loomis method. The Loomis method was created by Andrew Loomis. He was an illustrator and a teacher. This is a very, very popular and well-known method for drawing heads. It's a set of guidelines, basically standardized so you can apply it to any head. The grid lines we establish with the Loomis method allow us to plot the facial features. Don't worry if you don't get this down the first time. We're about to be relentless about it. First, you're going to start with a large circle and split it down the middle with a center line. Add smaller circles on each side approximate to the temple to create the sides of the head. Split those circles into quadrants with a perpendicular set of lines. The horizontal line is the general area of the eyes and brows. We'll draw an arched line from there, the horizontal line, down to the chin, which represents the cheekbones. The bottom of the side circles represent the bottom of the nose, and the jawline is established from there as well. We'll draw it down from the center point to meet the chin at the center line. That creates the foundation for laying down your facial features. And at that point, it's a puzzle with some problem solving on the side. And then another hidden secret skill that you're going to be working with at that point is the skill of observation, because every portrait is just a little bit different. The only way to conquer that is experience. So every time you practice and every time you sketch, you'll be honing that. This is a gorgeous life skill just in general, I'm just saying. One tip that I absolutely live by with portraiture, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what the medium, is I get my sketch really good before I move on to shading. For me, the sketch is my first rough draft and I want it to be perfect. I want the likeness to be established. When I can look at the sketch and already see the likeness, that's how I know that my drawing is going to be popping, okay? And I like to take that opportunity. It's a very important chance for us to get everything right before we start to go through the entire process. And that part, once we get to the process part, mistakes are harder to fix. Like the further on that we get, it gets way harder to move an eye from here 2 millimeters up. We're going to drill out those Loomis method heads. Whenever you're doing a portrait, before you move from the sketch phase to the shading phase, make sure that you assess, take a step back, look at things, and then fix your mistakes while you're still ahead of the game. I swear, getting that sketch right, especially for a painting, makes things so much easier in the long run. If sketching shape, form, or proportion is one of your weak points, which it was for me, form and sketching I was not as good at, I highly recommend just doing a ton of sketches, just back to back to back. You can always shade them later. You're basically just creating a folder of future artwork for yourself. Practice it like bam, 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 one after another. You're not going to master portraiture until you have that down. For our drills today, instead of doing full heads, let me recommend these worksheets to you. I used these. All right, so you see this, how we've got the head in all these different directions and it's set up in the Loomis method. Tracing is also a great learning tool. It helps you learn how to do it correctly instead of just shooting in the dark, so that when you are working, you have good, decent muscle memory. You really want to be good at the fundamentals. So there's multiple opportunities. And he starts at the most basic form with just circles and then adds skill over time while also providing you a place to repetitively practice. Anybody that can draw knows it is about repetition. Let me ask you a question. How many cartwheels do you think that Simone Biles has done that you haven't seen her do? Same vibe, baby. And when I say I traced to learn how to do heads, I mean I traced. I traced because I wanted to observe over and over and over again how light interacted with different with all this, okay? With hair, with skin, with teeth, with nails, from this direction and this direction, like this and that. Your girl needed to know, so I found out. Tracing allows you to observe on a completely different level than just visual observation. It helps you learn what shadows look like and why they are where they are. And when you're tracing, it's like you're not necessarily aware that your brain is learning, but it's just registering things for you. So it makes it really easy. Now, obviously, this is plagiarism, so you could never sell it. You can't claim it as your own. So for drills, I just want you to do as many of those as possible today. And then after that, let's do skulls. Let's just do some basic skulls. This is just like art 101. Every artist has done it. I did not want to do one at all, but like I did one in solidarity with you guys. I've done a couple of them recently. I did not want to go back to basics and do this again, but I did it for you guys because friends don't let friends draw skulls alone. We're not going to strand each other in the lands of the basics with no friendship, okay? This is something all of the masters do. Leonardo da Vinci did it. The study of anatomy allows you a literal deeper understanding of what you're creating. It's easier to understand what cheekbones look like on the outside when you have an understanding of what a skull looks like, when you know what's going on underneath. By the way, we're going to do this episode in 2 parts. And again, we're doing that because this is hard as we're going to do drills, anatomy, and value during this one. And then in part 2, we will add color and our maverick section where we get to break free and do whatever we want. If you have mastered value by the time that you arrive to color, you will have a better foundation for learning. And this is the other thing. It's already hard enough. And that makes it hard not to quit, okay? Because when you suck at something, it just makes you want to quit. It's the human experience. There's no need in us getting all like butthurt and weird about it. We have to do everything in our power to mitigate the chances of quitting. And then also, we're going to improve faster if we are focused in on less skills at once. So we're going to give ourselves an entire month to practice mastering shape, form, and value. Okay, so let's talk about value. What that means is that we're going to use shading, light and dark tones of basically one color. I used graphite and I also used a white colored pencil. It's up to you. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But what you want to do here is keep it monochrome. You don't want to be working with multiple different colors. It can be a colored pencil, but just pick one. So realistic portraiture requires a very accurate depiction of value. And what we're going to need to do is get really, really good at observing light and shadow on form, that's the face, in space. We're also looking at the area around what we're drawing when we draw, to see what shadows are being cast or how light is bouncing. There are multiple different techniques that you can use to shade: cross-hatching, just shading, scrumbling, stippling. All of those might come in handy at some point during your portraits. And I do want to encourage you while you're practicing to try different things, because this will also be a stylistic thing. As you can see on these different spheres, I used different techniques of shading so that you could see on the toned tan paper what these different styles of shading look like. You can decide, do I want to use a smudge stick? Do I prefer hatching? When do I prefer hatching? Where do I prefer hatching? Do I like a little combo of things? Find what pleases your eye. So for realistic portraiture, you are going to want to be very exact with your values. I used to think that like shape was really, really important as far as like the different features on the face. And then I realized that the look of features change completely with the direction of the light and how that affects the way that the shadows and the light are acting on the face, in addition to how the head is turned. So what you're really looking for when you're drawing a face is less the features, the individual features, though it's great that we have a ton of practice drawing different features from different angles, because that's going to make it easier for us once you got them on the face. When we are doing values for realistic portraiture, we want to be very precise, because anything that we do a little bit wonky is going to decrease the likeness. The simplified versions of heads get so much easier once you can do a masterful portrait consistently. That's another thing that you'll get out of this is like extreme confidence in your abilities. Like if I can draw a head, honestly, I can draw anything. Speaking of which, I have a massive collection, as usual, of reference photos that you can use already collected on Pexels.com. They are royalty free, so you can practice your little heart out and even sell your work if you like the final products. Another great option here might be to do a value scale. If you're struggling at all, there are so many nuances. The value changes are they can be very subtle or they can be very drastic. But because of that, within the realm of realistic portraiture, you've got to learn to be very exact with your techniques and your skills. Make sure that you can get those light value changes in the right places, because that's what's really going to create that full dimensional portrait that makes people ooh and ah and just bounces off the page and looks like magic and blows people's mind. Like when people see a well-rendered portrait, especially of someone they know, it's gripping, babe. People love it. People love it. I mean, we're human. We love each other. It becomes magical to people. Other really important tip for value is that you really do want to be mindful about the order in which you work. Again, there's no right way to do this. As you practice, you'll come up with your own process, but these are just generalized tips. I typically work from back to front. So like, for example, there are several values on the eyelids, different shades and highlights on the lid space. You're going to want to get all that done before you do the eyelashes. So you want to work from the back to the front per object. And then basically you want to do larger value shapes working towards your smaller detail value shapes. Once you start trying to smudge and everything, you're going to mess up your eyelashes. You're going to have a big old mess. What we are doing, we are finding the shapes of the value and different textures, whether it's hair, eyebrows, teeth, lips, and skin. These are all going to have different kind of textures, and want to make sure that you're representing that in your portraits. I find it helpful to stay organized and move in a certain direction. For example, when you're working with pencil, working in the opposite direction of what hand you use so that you're not constantly smearing. You do want to think ahead about some things depending on the medium that you're using. This type of art requires a lot of problem solving skills, and that's overwhelming. It makes you literally tired. Something to keep in mind. All right, y'all, I need to get out of here. I am being a hot mess, and I just want to sit here and be silly with y'all. Good job. Y'all nailed it. You nailed it. You did great today. The big thing here is that we need to practice. We need to equip ourselves with skills and knowledge, and we need to practice like a mofo. You know, that's like the answer. What did Van Gogh was like, look, if you want to be good at stuff, first of all, it's going to be hard. And second of all, if you're a serious artist, that won't matter. And third of all, you need to draw the same thing over and over again until your brain explodes and you cut your own ear off. So over the next month, that's what we're going to do, except for the ear removal. Once we're really, really good at form and value, i.e. the last day of March, we're going to add color to our portraiture. Again, completely different skill. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're going to join me. Next time you draw something that absolutely kicks ass that you learned here, I would like you to tag me on Instagram at Carter Sams. That's me, Hi, baby. It's so good to meet you. Come back next time. And use our community hashtag Mastery with Carter to show off. And I want to double tap it. I want to support you. But you have to tag me. You have to make sure I see it. Okay. I don't even care. You can slide right in my DMs. So yeah, but hashtag Mastery with Carter, show off. You know how that works? It's like a big mutual symbiotic support system. You see? We'll make the masters proud. Until then, be a freak about value, read lots of books, dance a lot, smash the patriarchy. Of course, I support your fight against fascism. Go use your powers for good.